So there's one thing that men deeply want from their partners, and I spent years giving the men in my life everything but this one thing. And it was because I didn't know that this one thing existed, and most women don't know that it exists. And I will give you a little teaser by saying this one thing is not sex, it's not beauty and youthfulness, and it is not effective communication skills. All of these things are absolutely amazing, of course. Men want these things too from their women. But there is one thing that rises above all of this. And I learned this lesson the hard way. I discovered it through a recent, very wild ayahuasca experience that I had. And I've been sitting with this plant medicine from the Amazon for a number of years. And I want to share with you what I learned because often the downloads and the messages or breakthroughs that I have in these plant medicine ceremonies are very much related to how we love and relate and how we do relationships as humans, because that is what my brain is thinking about like 24/7. So let me start by sharing a list of what men do not want. And some of these are going to ring to you as so freaking obvious. And the reason I am explicitly mentioning them is because we do so many of these things without knowing it. I was actually just listening to a voice note from a client, and she was asking me how to give feedback to a man in her life because she's seeing a pattern in him that might be in his blind spot. And she's like, Lee, I don't want to nag him the way my mother nagged my father. And I feel myself almost ready to do that because I want him to see what I'm seeing. And she is highly self-aware. So for those of us who have not built that level of awareness or were stuck in a pattern, which even if you identify as a an intelligent, intellectually and emotionally self-aware woman, we can still play out patterns that we saw in our household growing up because it feels so second nature to us until we really do some of the inner work to create a new pattern. So I give you that intro to say that some of these things that men do not wish to experience from us happen unconsciously. So things like men not wanting to be nagged or micromanaged by us, or therapized, or fixed, or told what to do as if we are their mother. And it's typically not in a woman's desire to do these things, but sometimes we find ourselves in these dynamics and we don't know how we got there. Men also don't want us to perform or to be perfect. Most men, anyway. It actually feels very uneasy for a man when we are in performance mode or when we are in perfectionist mode. So when they feel us over efforting, which is the default of many high achieving modern women, this is how we perform and we get ahead in our careers. When we bring that same energy to our relationship, it creates generally a sense of unease for the man that we are dating or that we're partnered with. Men also typically don't care about our resume. Like they don't care about our professional work. And I'm not going to say that they don't care at all, but it's not the most important thing to most men. And they also don't care how much work we've done on ourselves, spiritually, emotionally, to the extent that as long as we've done the work so that our stuff is not boiling into the relationship, they don't need a whole list of all the retreats we've attended, all of the modalities we've been through, all of the books we've read. Yeah, of course, it makes for interesting conversation, but it's not the most important thing to most men. And I know this because I have shown up in relationship in all of these ways. I've shown up in overfunctioning tendencies where I was trying to prove my worth. I was trying to control the outcome. I was trying to control how the man perceived me. And I was trying to be perceived as perfect, having my shit together, being the one who's intelligent and well spoken and well read. And this was basically just me hustling for love because there was some part of me that was very uneasy in my own nervous system, very unsettled. And I brought that energy unconsciously to my dating dynamics and to every single one of my relationships, including my marriage in the early years when my husband and I were still dating. So, this before picture of me was me performing, even in spirituality. Like I would share things so that people knew all the books I had read or all the things that I knew, rather than remaining at ease in myself. And the harder I tried to be the best partner, the less connected I felt to the men that I was dating, to my husband once I started dating him. And so in this ayahuasca experience that I had, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, so I'm still thick in integration mode. And by the way, if you've never heard of ayahuasca, it is a plant medicine that comes from the Amazon that has been used across indigenous cultures for hundreds, if not thousands of years for deep emotional healing, for spiritual insight, to connect to God, the cosmos, all that was, is, and will ever be. And I'm sure people use it for many other things as well, but it is brewed into a tea and you drink it, and it is a psychoactive plant. And as they say, grandmother, which is how they refer to ayahuasca, she has the spirit of a grandmother. She won't always give you what you want, but she will bring you what you need for your returning to wholeness, for your remembering that you are whole. And so as I've gone through these ceremonies over the last decade or so, in nearly every single ceremony, I would start off by crashing into this wall, metaphorically speaking. And this wall was the feeling of deep loneliness. And when I like those words don't even begin to capture how lonely I felt. Like it was the worst emotional feeling ever. It was excruciating loneliness. The feeling of being alone, the feeling of not belonging, and how I experienced that was like a deep ache in my chest, a pit in the well of my stomach, the sense of being unwanted and unchosen. And how it appeared to me in these ceremonies was that it was my body remembering what my mind had forgotten, which was not being held as an infant, like not being held by my mother, but rather being left in the crib to cry. And, I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, where the general tone of parenting advice was let the child soothe themselves. And so a lot of us got left. And the interpretation our infant brain makes is we're not wanted, we're not chosen. That imprint stays in our nervous system forever until if we ever do the work around confronting the fact that that's not true. That even if our mother left us in the crib, even if we were neglected as a child or not told that, they were proud of us or that they loved us, that it's not fundamentally true that we're not chosen or not valuable or worthy, regardless of how our parents treated us. And I didn't know that that wasn't the truth. So in these experiences, I would just writhe in emotional pain. And it would be like this itch I couldn't scratch. Like I could not do enough, think enough, move around on the floor enough to feel like I could overcome this loneliness. I know I'm really selling ayahuasca to you all if you've not done it. Try it now. Money back guaranteed. No, there is no money back guarantee. But it was an experience, I will say that, and I would 10 on 10 not recommend it if you don't wanna confront cosmic truth while confronting some of your own wounds while tripping on this jungle tea. And what I've learned over the years, because for some reason I was crazy enough to go back, what I learned over the years of sitting in ceremony was I learned to actually do the self-soothing that I was left to do as an infant that I obviously had no capacity to do, that none of us have the capacity to do at that time. And for the first number of ceremonies that I sat in the first few years, I would just spiral. I would spiral into the depths of emotional loneliness and aloneness, not knowing how to get myself out. Eventually, I would come to and the trip would be over and I'd be like, "Okay, well that fucking sucked. Cool. See you next time." And then over time, I learned how to ask for support. So there would always be a female space holder, either the medicine woman or a support person. And I would raise my hand in ceremony and I would ask for help. And this was a big move for me as someone who identified as a type A, self sufficient, hyper independent woman. I was like, I don't need help. Like, I got this. So no one's coming to save me. And I was like, actually, I fucking need someone to save me. Like, I really need some help right now. And so going from spiraling to being able to recognize that I wanted and needed help and asking for it was a huge quantum leap. And that happened over a number of ceremonies. And so I'd ask for help. And then I would ask for specific help. Can you stroke my hair? Can you hold my hand? Can you hold me? Can I lay on your lap? Will you tell me you love me? Will you tell me you're proud of me? I was using the feminine support person in these journeys, and I was projecting mom onto her and receiving the nurturance and love that I would have needed from mom growing up. And I was receiving it in this ceremony by asking specifically for what I wanted and needed. And this is something that we're not taught to do as women. And so we think that men should just read our minds. He should just know that I want this or that I need this. And if we're not doing that, then we're still feeling this huge void of a need not being met without knowing how to fully articulate it. And that fucking sucks. And so here I was finally learning how to ask for help, very specific help. Tell me you're proud of me. Tell me you love me with no shame about asking for that thing. And I really accredit my ability to ask for very specific support from my husband, Ani, now because of those experiences. Now, if I'm wanting a compliment, I will straight up say to my husband, babe, will you give me a compliment right now? Like, will you tell me I'm pretty? Will you tell me something that you haven't told me before? And I'll just ask for it. And that's okay. He doesn't have to read my mind. I can tell him what I want and he can offer it or not. But I know that I've asked for what I desire. And that's our only job, is to know what we desire and ask God for it. Ask the man in our life for it. And if they can provide it, great. If they can't, great. At least we asked. And then as I went through these ceremonies, I eventually learned how to hold myself. So in my last couple of ceremonies in the recent year or two, I have learned how to self-soothe. And I have learned to be the loving, nurturing, motherly presence to myself that I needed from mom, that I was then using the support women in these ceremonies to provide for me. Now I'm able to provide that for myself. And so I've seen this succession over the last number of years in these ceremonies, and it is wild to feel the depth of safety I feel in myself now because I've been doing this work. And in this most recent ceremony, something completely different happened. I was going up to the altar and receiving the medicine, the tea from the medicine woman. This was a female shaman. And as soon as I drank the tea, I remember dropping into prayer, and there was gratitude pouring out of me. I went back to my mat. I put my eye mask on because it's typically a very solo experience, pulled my covers up, and just words coming out of my mouth. God, thank you. Thank you so much for my body. Thank you so much for my husband. Thank you so much. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. It was this wave of gratitude that came through me. And it was like every cell in my body finally remembered the truth, like the cosmic plot twist that I'd been missing this whole time. And laughter and tears poured out of me at the same time. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you don't know if you're laughing or crying because you're having such a big breakthrough. That's what was happening. It was this ecstatic relief. And The medicine woman didn't know if I was having a breakdown or a breakthrough because I probably looked hysterical, and it was honestly, it was both. And at this moment, something pivotal clicked for me, and like I said, I finally got the cosmic joke. I realized that the thing men and the thing that love itself craves most isn't what we do, isn't how much money we make, how sexy we are, how few wrinkles or gray hairs we have, what our job title is. It's who we are when we are not performing. What men desire most from us, whether they know how to articulate it or not, at least very secure men, is the energy of a woman who feels safe in her own body, a woman who is at ease, who is relaxed and open-hearted. Because what that does for a woman and what that subsequently does for a man is absolute magic. The only way the energy of love can flow in this infinite feedback loop between two people is when there is an open channel for the energy of love to flow through it. If we are all blocked up and kinked up because we're worried about how we look on social media, and we're worried about what our mother thinks, and we're worried about this, and we're stressed over that, the energy of love cannot flow through us. There are too many kinks in the hose. But when we are at ease in ourselves, when we on a deep level know we belong, we are worthy, we are safe, not because of external circumstances or because we have the life and every part of it that we already want, but because we have chosen to realize we are safe, it calms our nervous system and we bring the energy of ease. And then his nervous system clicks into that and he feels at ease. And this is when we can extend the energy of trust and respect to the man in our lives, and he feels trusted, respected, and seen. It turns safety, and it actually creates the foundation of safety for us and between us and him into attraction. And, I'll say for many years, attraction for me was built through novelty and emotional unavailability. And so there was never a foundation of safety for my attraction in past relationships to sit on. It was a house of cards. Now in my marriage, I have learned to build attraction on a bedrock of safety because I feel safe in myself. And my husband, Ani, responds to this energy. He feels very different and responds to me very differently when I am overextending and performing than when I am at ease. And I notice that he is way more at ease when I'm at ease. And of course, he's responsible for his own energy, but we are always responding to the energy and the environment around us. And so that's what every man wants most. And that's what I had been searching for so long, not realizing that that is the deep fundamental feeling that I wanted to feel inside of myself. And like I said earlier, most women don't know this feeling, unfortunately. And that's a part of my mission in this life, is to help women feel what that feels like for them. And the reason most women don't know, and men included, is because they didn't feel that in childhood. They didn't feel that in infancy or even in utero. And that imprint really leaves a mark. And it informs how we feel in our adult life until and if we do the work to rewire our nervous system and our brain and our emotions around love and worthiness. And so for so many of us high-achieving women, some of that drive for high achievement was actually built on the adapting we had to do to earn love. So we know how to work hard. We know how to earn our keep. We know how to get shit done. And it's a great quality. But it's really important for us to ask where that quality is coming from, a genuine desire versus an adaptive need to fill a void or to overcompensate for something that we don't believe we have or that we don't believe we are, which is inherently worthy, safe, lovable. And so it's not anyone's fault if they never truly felt safe or relaxed in love and relationships because we didn't get that modeled for us. We didn't experience it growing up. So the liberating truth here for me is that one of the things I realized in this ceremony was that even though this sounds like a very big bridge to cross, like how do I go from never having felt safe to all of a sudden feeling safe, is that there's not always a huge process, right? If you're someone who does a lot of personal development work, then you know the tendency or the temptation to like always be in a process, be fixing, be reading, be learning, be processing. But for some things, there is no process. It's just about remembering that we are already worthy. Presence is the process. And as I went into day 2 of this ayahuasca ceremony, after having this ecstatic, blissful day 1, day 2 was really the integrating component because on day 2, I was very restless. I just felt so restless in my body. I was like writhing around in discomfort. And I had a come to God moment where I was like, okay, I've felt this before. I know what restlessness in this psychoactive space feels like. I can keep doing this, but I'd rather not feel restless. So I've got to break the pattern. And if I want to break the pattern of restlessness and unease fundamentally in my body, then I need to do something different. So instead of just letting the medicine take over and just writhing here for hours until it finally runs its course, I stood up and I put my hands on my hips in a power pose, and then I started to dance, which was not at all what I wanted to do. And I realized in that moment that as I broke the pattern somatically or in my body by moving and standing in a different position, all of a sudden my mind started to open. So my body led my mind. Well, maybe my mind led my body and then it led my mind again. And I realized, oh, I can just choose the state I want. I can choose ease, safety, and belonging. I can choose something different, and then I can let everything flow from there. So I really think we've had it backwards. Like we think we need to get the result and then we'll feel how we want to feel. Like we think we need to have the perfect relationship before we can feel at ease and relaxed. But that's actually backwards. We choose the state of ease and relaxation and belonging first. And then from that state of being, we naturally create the results that our mind wants to create. And so my reflection questions for you today, the untamed moment is, what do you actually want in your love life? Like, what do you actually want? And don't choose something that has to do with what the other person's doing or not doing. Like, choose something that is completely within your control and agency, how you want to show up, how you want to feel, what you're committed to creating. And then how will you feel when you have it? Will you feel joyful, at ease, relaxed, open-hearted? How can you choose that state now? How can you choose joy or ease in your day-to-day? Does it mean that instead of walking down the street looking at your phone, you're looking up at the trees and you're like, wow, that's a nice tree. That's a nice ass tree. That's a big tree. Or you're smiling at someone, or you're asking the barista at the coffee shop, hey, how are you today? Like, how can you choose these things in small ways that actually make a big difference now? And just keep choosing those things. And then watch how the results you create from that state of being differ from the results you create from a closed state of being. I promise you, you will be on the fastest path to your dream love life from choosing your state of being intentionally and acting from that place. Okay, that's what I got for you today. If this landed, please hit like and subscribe, drop a comment below, tell me what state you're choosing today. Comment on someone else's comment with some love and encouragement. And here's to your no process and to having the love life you want right freaking now.